are the cap for whatever goes on in your store, in your company, in your district, in your household. However excited you are, what you believe is possible, whatever that threshold is.
Hey team, Jim Cripps here with the Charge Forward podcast, coming to you from Hit Lab Studios here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now I have a special guest for you today. She is near and dear to my heart, Miss Anna DiCarlo. She is a wife, a mother, a business owner for the past 12 years, supplying local people and even some not local people with just the perfect service for them. Please welcome Miss Anna DiCarlo.
Hi, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm here.
That's right. And this is your first podcast.
This is my very first podcast, yeah.
All right. We're going to make sure it's really easy.
Okay.
And, you know, I met you about a year ago.
God, has it been that long?
Almost. I think. Yeah, time flies.
It really does. Okay.
It does. So you own Belle Naturelle.
I do.
And we'll get to it a little bit later, but you've got another business that you're budding that has been in the works for a while.
Oh, yeah. Long time. I say long time, but, you know, I've been doing some of it since I was born. And then the other, I trained in all the things. So, like you said, we'll talk about it later.
I love it. Well, and so how would you describe what you do? Because, like, when I describe it to people, it gets really woo-woo, and I just...
really quickly.
It does, and I have to say, hey, bear with me. I know how this sounds, and I know it doesn't sound like anything I would have told you ever before in life, but...
Okay. So we'll talk about the first one, the Belle Naturelle, because that one's a little bit more easier to grasp,
there
right?
You go.
So that one is strictly just completely natural, organic products that I research, test, formulate, from start to finish, right? Mm-hmm. It all happens in my shop, labeling, packaging, everything. And then it goes out to people. But that's not what makes it really special. What makes it really special is if you have an ailment or something that's going on with you and you're like, hey, I'm allergic to this. That's okay. I can edit it. Like, since everything's formulated by me, let me go ahead and switch it out. Or leave it out, or whatever I need to do to help you. And if I have a product that's not launched yet, which there's been very minimal of that, right? But if I have a product that doesn't fit you, I research, test, we go through all the things together to see what will work for you. So it's not just it's sitting on a shelf, let me come in and purchase whatever. You know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
You actually get a chance to shop either like that, or you can have something customizable for you. So it makes it really unique.
It does. And to me, it's almost like, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's almost like you're mixing potions.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. That's the start of the woo-woo, I guess.
It is. So, and we might as well just dive into the woo-woo part of it. So I came to you because I don't think I had any preconceived notions as to what Reiki was, or energy healing, or a sound bed, or I knew a little bit about what lymphatic drainage was. But yeah, I don't think I had any. Yeah, there was no expectation.
That's fair.
And it's life-changing.
It can be, absolutely.
And as I tell people that, so and I don't know if this person, I won't say their name on camera because they may not want me to, but just last week we were having dinner with some friends, and their parents came, and I haven't sat and had dinner with them in 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Now, we've had conversations, but haven't sat down and had dinner with them. But I was talking about the Reiki sessions, and because this person was like, oh, my feet are always cold, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, funny story about that. And of course, in the beginning, they're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Right.
And then the next day, he's like, hey, can you share with me the information for Miss Anna? Yeah, absolutely, I could do that.
That's awesome.
So... there's all kinds of things that you help solve and that you help people work through. I think it's different for everybody.
Absolutely it is.
So I guess is there a normal for you? Is there
The only thing normal about any of it is that I bring every single person back to themselves. So in a world of distraction, in a world of chaos, in a world of let's pay attention over here, right? We're always somewhere else. We forget about this. So I was talking to somebody who happened to be traveling to Nashville. They were trying to buy a house, you know, in the Pleasant View area, you know, and she's coming all the way from Kansas, and she's like, you know, I really got to find my holistic people, my community, because I have it in Kansas, and here it's like really hard to come by. And so I go, well, funny story, right? You always start with that. And I told her, I said, you need body, mind, and soul to make it whole. And she goes, I need that on a shirt. She's like, I need you to write that down and put it on a shirt. And I said, well, even if it's on a shirt, are you going to notice it? Are you going to look in the mirror? Are you going to read it? And she was like, well, you know, she kind of thought about it. And I said, the pain in your hips. I was like, we got to talk about that. And she was like, how did you know I had pain in my hips? And I was like, well, that's where you're carrying your grief. And then it started rolling into something else. And she's just looking at her friend like wide-eyed, like, I don't understand how this woman knew that. Right? So people get scared, like if you say Reiki, right? People get scared of things they don't know, so it becomes woo-woo. Sure. Right? Or it becomes unexplainable or anything else. But your body language can say exactly what you're feeling, or the way you're standing, or I'm just really good at reading people, but also feeling it at the same time. Right? Again, that's where I said I started when I was a little itty bitty kid, because I would be like, Mama, those, you know, that person's leg is hurting them, or they're really sad. And my mom was like, what are you talking about? Right. You know, I mean, it was just kids feel that. But as we grow older, we forget to continue to feel that. Everything else takes priority.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Well, and I think we just get caught up in the norms, right? With what becomes, what we see as normal is, or what society sees as normal. I was going to
say, what's normal?
Yeah. Well, it's all about perspective. Yep. And so I will share mine. So team, I go for my Reiki session with Miss Anna. And again, I had no preconceived notions. I'm just there for experiment. There you go. And so she does her thing, and we get done, and she goes, do your feet stay cold? And I'm a person that I run hot all the time. Like, if my wife would let me set the temperature at 58 degrees in the house, I would gladly do it. But no matter what, my feet stay cold. So much so that for years, I would say the entire time we've been married, because I did this well before we got married, I have a towel at the end of my bed. Now, Emily gives me grief because it's not a blanket, it is a towel. And it's just because I only need to cover up this part, like the last 14 inches of the bed, because that's where my feet are. And so Anna gets done, and she goes, well, I noticed that, and I think I fixed it, and so let me know. And of course, I'm like, okay, yeah, that sounds great. There's no way that she fixed my feet. I haven't covered my feet up since. So it is bizarre. I can't explain it, but it works if you're open to it. And I don't think I was open to it or not open to it. I was just there and willing. And I've referred other people to you with the same problem, and they are fixed as well.
Yeah.
So I guess if you remember, like, how was that on your end? What did you see that?
So, okay. And I'm okay saying this, but, you know, I don't know how people are going to perceive it. I guess that's not my responsibility, right? But essentially, I speak to soul. So as I'm doing the Reiki session, and Reiki is really, it can even be scientifically talked about, right? So energy by physic form cannot dissipate, right? Can't go anywhere. It only changes or transmutes, right? So when somebody is transferring, like somebody gets close to you, you can feel them before they touch you, right? You have all those senses. It's just like somebody walking up behind you and you're like, ooh, like I know somebody's back there, right? And you turn around and somebody's standing there, right? Or you walk into a room and you feel, oh, this room is, I don't like this. Like something about this I don't like. That's really all energy is. It's that feeling, it's that intuition, it's that knowing. Well, with Reiki, the fundamental purpose is just, I'm there, I'm giving you good energy. That's it. It can't be used for woo-woo or bad or curses or anything else, right? It's strictly good stuff. And then when I was doing Reiki for you, what I would see, because that was your original question, was I could actually see a block at your hips. It was like you were two different people almost. The bottom half looked cold and not, how do I want to say this? Not lively. Like the energy just wasn't flowing. It was like it would come from your head, go, and just stop at your hips. And I think you might remember us talking about that, how it was just like you were severed.
Right. Well, and the thing that, one of the things that, so I get frustrated with people when people make up the answer. And I love the fact that, you know, I knew nothing about what you were doing. You could have told me anything on this planet and I would have to perceive it as real or not real. And you said, I've never seen this before.
I really didn't. Before you, I really hadn't seen that before. Yeah.
And so you said, you know, I'm going to have to reach out to other experts and see what they say about this. But you said, you know, I've worked on the energy, moving energy to your feet, and let me know if it worked. And again, this is the first time I'm in for this, you know, and I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah. Well, we had longer talks than that too, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, speaking of, you know, just knowing everything about the body and knowing that the feet is your root system, right? It's what grounds you to the earth. It's your family. It's your lineage. It's everything that goes with there. And I'm like, maybe it has something to do with that. Let's talk about that, you know, and we're not going to like go into it, but just knowing that, I'm like, let's talk about your root system. Like, how is it? How are you rooted? How are you grounded? Let's talk about family. What does that look like for you? Feel like for you? And it did. Like, I remember you didn't want to tell me that everything felt good. Didn't you think it was a fluke or something?
Well, you know, you just don't know. I mean, there's
Yeah.
And now I don't even try to explain it. It's just you do what you do and I do what I do, and I don't claim to be an expert in Reiki, and I don't think I need to be.
No.
You know, and then at the same time, and I don't know if I'm a more difficult client than others or not. You know, every time you ask what is the purpose, you know, what are you here for? And for me, it's just to continue to get better. And I know that can be kind of vague, but I also look at it like, you know, this is one of those parts of myself and of the world that I don't have 47 years of experience in. You know, I have less than a year's worth of experience of even thinking about it. So I don't know what's next.
That's fair.
And, you know, so I mean, I applaud people that have a very specific set of goals to come into it. But for me, it's just, hey, I'm wide open. It's like, let's figure it out.
Well, and I always like to ask for intent, right? Because some people really do have a goal. I always know what your answer is going to be, but I'm never going to deny you the chance to say whatever you're feeling, right? So I ask you already knowing, but trusting that if you ever change your mind, it's also welcome then too, right? And you're not difficult. I wouldn't call you difficult, just knowing already what you're going to say. But in those moments, it's like your body's going to give what it needs to give anyway. It's always going to set you up for success, never failure. And energy is going to move whether you believe it or not. So I don't really care.
Right? No, I love that because, you know, I think you have to be a very special type of person to be able to do what you do.
No, thank you.
At the same time, I also think it is amazing and fantastic that, you know, me personally, like I have one of the things that I do, and I know this about myself, is I carry things with me longer than I should. And you really do go, well, you know, kind of once the session is over, it's gone. And because after the first time we had a Reiki session, I really had that in my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, what a burden this has got to be for her. And then, in the next session, we're talking about it, and you were like, well, after the session's over, it's over.
It's over.
And I mean, that was profound for me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's how she does it. So how did you get into Reiki and the holistic side of healing and natural products? They all kind of mesh together. But how did it start?
So La Belle came first. Well, technically the spiritual side came first, but we'll start with La Belle. La Belle came first because my daughter had chemically induced eczema. Not knowing what it was, I had a pediatrician who decided to help me because not giving her baths and just hoping she grows out of it was not a good enough answer for me. So being first-time mom, you want to do everything right. And so I signed to my baby, all the baby sign language, and just trying to help her with her leg. I had no idea what chemically induced eczema was, and it's just the chemicals within anything that sits on a shelf. Doesn't matter if it's natural, organic, pure, doesn't matter. If it sits on a shelf, it has to have a chemical. So hearing that, I'm like, well, I'm not going to not give her baths, right? Or I'm not going to just sit and hope that she gets better. So what I didn't know is my pediatrician at the time also practiced holistic medicine on the side with his family. So he helped me to formulate, know how to research, know where to grab information, what to look for, what oils not to use on babies, because baby skin is different than adults. All the things that we don't think about or we don't know about, he informed me about. And so I came up with my first product, which was a body butter. And, when I started, holistic and natural products is not new. Okay. People have been doing it forever. Okay. So we just repeat the cycle. Okay. So me doing that, I knew it wasn't profound. It just happened to help her. Right. And so I took her back. It was gone. And he was like, this is great. What have you been using? And I said, well, I formulated this. He goes, well, that's amazing. And I said, yeah, now I'm going to work on soap because that's what I wash her with. Right. That makes sense. So started with the soap process. I couldn't go on Etsy or Pinterest or all these other places that now have information. And I say like that because it's not proper information. It's just information.
Sure.
But anyway, I went through and did that. And all of a sudden her legs were great and her skin was beautiful and there was no more issue. Well, then I had a friend who was like, hey, my son has this on his leg. They can't find anything. They're giving me steroids for it. Can you help? Sure, here, have some, and I just kind of did that. But then I was giving away so much that it started eating away at our income. Sure. And at that time we were one household income. So my husband was working, but I wasn't. I was home with her because she had a lot of medical problems. She, had acid reflux really bad. So when she ate, she had a chance of choking on it. And it was just a whole thing. She is my worry child. But yeah, so I started with that and it just kind of flourished into a business. Within a year of starting, I was already looking at doing a storefront. I went to go do a storefront and I found out that that same daughter had hearing loss. And I was like, well, what is this? Like, what is, and apparently we had taken her to, a mommy's day out program at a church. And we loved it there. But one of the teachers was like, do you ever notice if she's not looking at you, she doesn't pay attention? I'm like, no, I didn't. She's my only child. She looks at me all the time. Like, there's nothing, So anyway, we take her in. Super long story short, we take her in. They find out that, yes, she doesn't have hearing in her ears, right? She has minimal. You have to, scream at her for her to hear. And if she's not looking at you. Well, here she'd been reading my lips, and with baby signs, she'd been able to figure things out, so she was farther along than somebody who was completely deaf. But as they were trying to find a reason for why she didn't have hearing, they found a tumor behind her eye. So neurosurgery was in our path.
Oh, my gosh.
And so when she was 3.5, I was already pregnant with the second one, and we found out it was a genetic issue. My husband holds a gene, I hold a gene, and that's 25% chance we'll have a deaf child. And of course, I was already pregnant, and I'm like, great, what is this one going to be done? All these crazy things.
Sure.
At that point, we were moving from Murfreesboro to where we are now in Chapmansboro, and then I don't even remember the process for that.
Right. That was the least of your worries.
Yes, because then I had my second child. My, first was going in for neurosurgery. So of course I shut down my business. And that's where I was being beaten, right? Or it felt like I was being defeated. And I took a year off of that. Didn't open my storefront because we moved and, I had a new baby and I had a daughter that had neurosurgery. And then a year later I reopened. I had $200 and I said, I'm either going to make it or break it. And here I am.
There you go. And that was roughly 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's amazing.
So that was, and there's times where I feel like it's always temporary defeat until you actually agree that it's defeated.
Right.
It's only temporary. You got to find your way around it. You got to find how to succumb over it, or, any of the things that, I don't care if it's recession. You think about my business, it's been through a recession. It's been through a neurosurgery. It's been through some of the hardest times that, we've had presidency-wise or economy-wise or any of those things. I survived COVID. And I think about all these things. I'm like, well, the difference is I didn't say I agree to it.
Absolutely. And, we used to, for years, we said we get to decide whether we're going to have a better year or a worse year. Yeah. It's up to us. It doesn't really matter who's president. It doesn't really matter who's in charge. It just matters what we care about and what we decide to do. So as we unpack that, so you had plenty of reasons that you could have given up. You had plenty of reasons that you could have said, oh, this was the final straw. Oh, this means I'm not supposed to do that. And, really kind of the spirit of the Charge Forward podcast is people who default to charging forward when others would give up. You had all kinds of reasons that you could have used, and no one would have ever thought bad of you or anything like that. No. But you chose to just put one foot in front of the other. You had $200 to get it started, and here you are, a dozen years later, and you're crushing it.
I think so.
Well, not only, your business has evolved even just in the last couple of years, because you did have a storefront.
I did.
They're in Pleasant View.
I finally opened one. Yep. And that was like 2 months before COVID hit. And everybody had to shut their doors to the public, even though I didn't really shut my doors to the public.
You're in Pleasant View. So.
Yeah, it didn't really matter. But even then it was, and I gotta say though, that was like probably one of the best years that I ever did financially, because everybody's home on the internet and I'm on the internet, and it just is what it is. But even after that, because I felt the effects of COVID after, and everybody started hoarding money a little bit more, and of course groceries went up, gas went up, everything, life went up. Yeah. Right. And I'm sitting there, I'm going, but I want to do more. Like, there is more to what's happening. And that's where the spiritual stuff comes in. And I'm like, I want to do this, but I don't necessarily feel like people should have to be charged to find themselves or to heal. Like, this concept cannot come through in my mind how people should, and it bothers the hell out of people. You know this.
I know. Well, and it's an interesting concept, and somebody who I am through and through, I'm a capitalist, and I understand money, and I did not understand when I came to see you, and you were like, this is a donation based, and it's still to this day, it still perplexes me. I love your heart and your spirit in it. I have trouble making it make sense in my head, but that's why I have my business and you have your business, and they're two different businesses. But a couple of other things have happened kind of along the way, because I think the way that I knew about you, which is crazy because your store was less than a mile from my house, and
interesting.
Yeah. And I never went in there, never knew anything. Like, to me, it's just this,
a building.
Just a building.
Yeah.
That it never crossed my mind to even walk in the building. And then you moved your shop to your home.
I did.
And for a much better work-life balance.
I did.
And for family and for self and all those things. But where in the mix of all that, because the way I heard about you was through Michelle.
Okay.
And I think I saw a almost like somebody sent a screenshot, and maybe you may have posted a screenshot of this board that was your services and Michelle's services and I think it was 4 of you. But it's like a blackboard with all the services on it. And it may have been you that posted it, but I saw ozone.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, there we go. And I'm a big fan of ozone, and to some people that's woo woo, and that's fine.
It's okay.
I've just adopted that I'm into pretty much anything woo woo. But I was talking to her while while you're getting ozone therapy, that's an hour long minimum, and I was talking to her, and she said something about you, and I was like, And I'd heard your name before, but I didn't know anything about you. And then we met at a chamber event and had a lengthy conversation. And I was like, my wife needs to come see you. And you were like, she needs to decide that. That's not something you decide. And I was like, no. Hey, this isn't. And I think it was hilarious because when she came to see you, your first part of the conversation was like, he didn't force you to come here, did he?
That was the first thing I asked her. Yep, absolutely. You're here on your own free will, right? Blink twice if you need help.
Right.
Like, yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, because I'm the one that, even though my wife is in cancer research, so you would think that she's constantly like trying to find the next best thing. I'm the one that is very open to different types of healing and those types of things. And so I'm the one that usually finds it. She thinks I'm crazy. And then once I don't die, then she's willing.
Yeah, I guess I'll step my toe in it. Like, yeah, right. Absolutely.
Like the first time I went and got ozone therapy, I think she thought I was kidding until I was on the way back. And of course she's on the internet, and she goes, you really did this? And I said, honey, we had this conversation. You knew I wasn't driving 2 hours to go not do it. I don't understand. So Emily's kind of grilling me about ozone therapy. And so she looks up, and there's only one clinical study going on in the United States that is ozone based. But there's hundreds across the world. And this is kind of 2021. So we're not out of COVID yet. I would say we're almost in the thick of it, really. And, my experience with ozone was pretty, I don't want to say extreme, but awesome might be the right word. And so that really kind of led me down this path of, okay, I'm just going to be open to just about anything if there's actual information that backs it up. And, I don't think if I hadn't gone down that path and had such good results, I don't think I would be open to things like Reiki and energy healing and all the things.
That's fair.
In that space, who's been a mentor to you?
Oh my goodness. In the spiritual space?
Well, all of it.
All of it. Okay. The LBN part of it is me, myself, and I. I always strive to do better, to help somebody that maybe doesn't know they need help, right? Or people that are looking for other options. And I think all options are necessary, right? You do what you can. There's good, better, best. I consider LBN part of the best category, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that's just as, you know what I mean? Like, for me, it's not about the competition. It's about who I'm helping, right? How many people can I reach? How many people can I change their minds? How many people can we enlighten, bring back to self? Any one of those things. LBN was me, myself, and I. For the spiritual realm, that one's funny. So currently, I work with I like to call us mastermind group, right? Because we lift each other up. There's zero competition. We each can do what everybody else does, but we specialize in certain things, right? So we've got Michelle, who does a lot of the physical body. She does the ozone, she does Reiki as well. She's able to do medical Reiki. So while she's doing it, she's like, oh, your liver. Like, let's check on your liver. Let's do X, Y, and Z, right? And I had a client reach out to me and she's like, ozone seems too good. Like, it's a clinic in our house. Like, how good can it be, right? I said, whoa, first off, check yourself. You're judging, right? This is pure judgment. You're uncomfortable because it's not in a doctor setting. What's the difference? Just the office? Like, what's actually a difference? And she didn't really tell me. And I was like, okay, well, she is a nurse practitioner. So by the state of Tennessee, she's recognized to be a nurse practitioner. I said, but she's also a functional medicine nurse. So you have the best of both worlds, right? She can prescribe you a Z-Pack, but then also bang it up with all these extra like ozone and herbal remedies and whatever, right?
It's like the best of both worlds.
Absolutely, it is. And then, you know, she's somebody that I go to. I have my other close friend. She's pretty much like a sister at this point. But Christy is her name, and she's a emotional coder. So what that is essentially you have emotions trapped within your body, and she helps release those through muscle memory, right? Because it gets stuck in your muscles and your bones and all that stuff. So she strictly does that, and she does that for donation base as well. And then you have me, and of course I do the spiritual aspect. Yeah, you have emotions within the body, but the soul holds on to that as well. And again, energy can never, you know, dissipate. It can only change or transmute. So whether you believe in reincarnation or not is none of my business. I really don't care. But the energy that you are, when you die, you don't just disappear. Something happens, right? So reincarnation or not, heaven or not, whatever anybody's beliefs is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't go away. That's the main point, right? So I'm able to see whatever your soul is holding on to. Is it this lifetime? Is it when you were a child and a sucker was taken away? Remember, I've given you that example several times. So we get to the root cause of what's going on. Like, why do you have this fear all the time of making a left turn? Or why do you, not you personally, but like in general, you know? And so I deal with that spiritual aspect. And then we also have who I call mom. She's not my mom, but I call her mom. She just has to live with it. She's the holistic practitioner of the group. So she went to school for it. She, you know, she wants to eventually go in front of a board and do the whole board licensure. But she does all the herbal inside, right? So whatever you need, if you can't go to a doctor, she can help you. You know, she's very knowledgeable. But those are our people. And we just take care of each other constantly. We have a few other people that we reach out to. You know, Emma is one of them. Emma, she's also Reiki, but kind of like getting into it more and more. But, you know, our span goes beyond that. And I feel like, again, every person is needed. Every modality is needed. It's when do you need it?
Right. Well, and I think it's interesting because, you know, the first time that I came in for a session, you informed me very quickly that there were other people that you worked with, and that if you thought that I needed somebody different, that you wouldn't hold back on that. And it wasn't a personal thing. It was just that you wanted to make sure that I was where I needed to be working on the things that I needed to work on.
Absolutely.
And so I do work with two of the ladies in the group. In fact, I have a ozone therapy Wednesday, day after tomorrow.
Awesome.
And, you know, it turned out we had some things in common, the reasons we both needed ozone. So Michelle does a cellular test, and my cellular test came back that I had Lyme and Epstein-Barr, and then an aluminum toxicity. So, you know, working through that, having all that fun. But I think just in the world today, we assume that we're going to go in and they're going to prescribe us a pill of some sort.
A magic pill?
A magic pill.
Yeah. And,
you know, it's just not, it happens every day. I'm just saying it's not all. In some cases, it may be the exact right thing. I would just default to say more often than not, it's probably not.
Good, better, or best.
There you go. And, even a good friend of mine who has, is, I would say, not rich, but it does not worry from a monetary standpoint.
Yeah.
And I said something to him. He's mid-50s. And I said, you should definitely go take a look. I think based on the fact that I've known you for 15 years,
Yeah.
I think you have this going on. And he goes, well, that's not covered by insurance. And I said, no, it's not. But wouldn't you rather be healthy? And he goes, well, if it's not covered by insurance, I'm not doing it. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that out there.
There is.
And so did that play into the reason to go donation-based or?
No.
Good.
That didn't go for donation-based. For me, first off, I used to tie my worth to money. Mm-hmm. If I wasn't bringing enough money in the house, I didn't feel like I was worthy or worth anything, right? So I had both of those components playing in the back of my head. And the more I healed and the more I realized, oh, that is something that was stuck with me, whether it be because my grandmother lived through the Holocaust and also the Depression, and, if it was generational or if it was the things that were being said to me growing up, whatever it was that I had learned, money equated my worth. And so it took me a really long time to figure out that's not how this works, right? I will always be taken care of. I don't care what's going on. I've always have been taken care of, and I always will be taken care of. And even though a lot of people may find this woo-woo, being a born-again Christian and saying, hey, I do believe in God. I went to a Catholic high school. I've stopped defending myself in that category because I know where my faith lies. Mm-hmm. And I've had several interviews where they're like, well, how can you run a business on donation base? I said, because I will never be not taken care of. Mm-hmm. And that's really where my faith is. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've had clients come in, they're like, well, I can't afford you. I said, it's donation. Well, yeah, but I still can't afford you. What does that mean? Like, what does that even mean? And they're like, well, I can bring food. Great. Oh, yeah, I can pay you food? Yeah. Whatever donation you want to make, whatever makes you happy, comfortable, I don't care, because it's your problem, right? If you can't figure out the cost, it's a you problem. Of course, monetary is great. I have bills to pay. It is what it is. But that's not what I go into it knowing, right? I had a client even come in. She did, what did she do? Acupressure. And then we ended up talking spiritually afterwards, right? Because I'm like, man, your hips, like, they're screaming, And I was like, what haven't you processed through? Like, what grief haven't you talked about? And, of course, she started crying on the table, right? We had a lengthy discussion. And I had a client come in literally right behind her, so she had to leave. Mm-hmm. And she didn't pay. Didn't donate. I didn't even think twice about it. Mm-hmm. And I texted her after my other client left, and I was like, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay after our talk, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, my God, I forgot to donate money. Like, I'll have to catch up with you later. And she was all kinds of concerned. And I was like, girl, I didn't even remember. Like, it is very appreciated, but it is not what I function off of, right? So it was just, those are the reasons why I do what I do. Mm-hmm. I always know I'll be taken care of. That's never going to be a question for me. So why not help other people? And if in the process somebody wants to give me $1 million, hell, right? You know what I mean? That's fine.
Well, I will say, just in general, I do think that is a struggle for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I think you do it from a space where you're trying to remove the struggle from it. Yeah. You're trying to remove that barrier that somebody says, I can't afford that. Yeah. But I do think it for some people, like, it is perplexing. It is. I had an argument with a client in my office one time over it. I don't have any doubt. Because they also, I think it's one of those things too, where if there's no gauge then some people will argue with themselves over it. And so
and that's not my problem.
I agree. It's not your problem. But I do think that is a challenge that some people will walk through.
It is, and I can appreciate that. I've even had people not come to me because I'm donation based. So they think there's some kind of trick or some kind of like manipulation thing going on. And I'm like, that's okay, because God will only bring me people that are ready for me anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's really how it's been. And I even had a client the other day, they were like, 2 years ago, I would have never been open to hearing what you have to say. And now I am. I was like, right. That's why I didn't see you 2 years ago. I had a business 2 years ago. I was doing Reiki 2 years ago in my shop, but I only did it as if somebody needed it, right? If I was pulled to do it. And I was like, but there's a reason why it's now.
Well, and actually you work with a friend of mine, who's also a client, and, we were talking about her because I said, hey, you're probably going to get a call. I referred this person to you. And you were like, oh yeah. When I met her 2 years ago, I knew that I was going to end up working with her.
I even told my husband that.
Yeah.
I was like, this person right here, I'm going to work with her. And he was like, that'll never happen. I'm like, it's coming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it did. And she's having wonderful results. Who is I don't want to say the avatar, because I feel like that's maybe too pointed. Who's the client? Who's the right fit for you? And how do they know it?
So you will always feel a pull for something more, right? I tend to appear, people tend to meet me, or people that I work with, and they get this pull. There tends to be a conversation that you didn't expect. And it could be, I've gotten people hooked just by asking them a question, and they're like, why, I didn't mean to go into that, or wow, you aren't my therapist. Like, why am I telling you all this? And I'm like, because are you ready to come back to self? And they're like, funny enough, I've been feeling like I need to do more for myself and, this and that. And that's really when it is. When you have had enough of your own bullshit, if I'm allowed to say that.
Absolutely.
When you finally had enough of that part of it, and you're like, you know what, there's got to be something more. Or I've lost my passion, where's my passion? Or any of those things of, I finally see there's so many distractions, yet where am I? Or all my kids left, where am I? And that's where a lot of times I see people, they're in those down, I don't know what I'm to do with myself anymore. I don't know, where my love is for something, where my zest for life is. Like, everything's mundane and whatever it is, and that's when people tend to come in and we really get down to the nitty gritty. As you know, I say things that people don't like. So.
Oh, no, that's my favorite part. So, if you are coming to see Anna because you think she's going to, powder your behind and make you feel better, you will feel better. But it is sometimes it's not adversarial, but you don't take it easy on people, but for the right reasons. Like, sometimes you'll be like, "Hey, I'm about to push on you." Okay, great, go for it. Because some people are open to it and some people are not. But I think if you want to get better, if you are in an active pursuit of being the best human, being the best soul you can possibly be, well, then sometimes you need an outside force that asks the tough questions and really doesn't let you off the hook. Because there's a lot of places in this world that people are let off the hook. When they should be pushed for what it is that they're actually looking for.
Right, and my group is really, really good. Some people more than others. I'm the more compassionate of the group, is what a lot of them will say. But, we make people take responsibility for themselves. And I think over the years, we've lost the ability to say, I'm in this predicament because I made a choice. And people don't realize that. Like, you make your reality, you choose to be in this position that you're in, and that's even a conversation me and my husband have had. Our group we're going in February to Las Vegas. We've been asked to come and do like a conference type thing for a business there, right?
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I'm super stoked about it. So we're going there to help the employees, to speak on what we do, to provide services. I'll still be doing donation there. And as we do this and we get to go to different places, my husband's over here going, well, why can't I go? Well, I mean, I have a job. Like, we have kids. Like, what about all this? And I said, we made the choice to have kids. You're making the choice to still live this life. And he was like, well, we need money. Like, we have a mortgage. I said, we will always figure it out. We always have. Even when we were one income and, you weren't making that much, like, we always figured it out. So you're still actively making the choice to live the way you want to live. I said, we have people that can watch our kids. My parents will always show up, So you're still making the choice. And no choice is still a choice. And being quiet about it is still acceptance. And we've just gotten away from this of, well, I don't want to see that side of it. Like, I don't like that. I don't like that answer.
Well, I think it's there's two pieces to it. One, just in general, people are not held accountable these days.
That part.
Two, we also sugarcoat it, and that we don't call people out on it. Mm-hmm. It's actually considered rude or whatever. Okay, great.
Well, I am so rude.
Well, but only the people that really care about you are going to not let you off the hook. They're going to say the real thing. Mm-hmm. And the other, what I think is probably the most problematic part of not taking ownership or being accountable to those decisions or lack of decisions is it strips us of the control. If I'm not the cause of all of this, well, then how can I be part of the solution? And so by giving up that it was my choice and that the world just happened to me, well, then I'm off the hook on that. But it also kind of strips me of, well, it's my mess to clean up. Mm-hmm. And, I think people need a hard dose of reality of, hey, today is exactly whatever you make of it.
Absolutely. Period. Absolutely. And I think, what you do here is great, the charge forward aspect of it. And I know we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but really, you are only defeated if you agree to it. I mean, it really comes down to that. And they're like, well, what about the position I'm in? Like, I can't help that I can't find a job that pays this so that way I can get out of whatever. Let me tell you, me and my mom, I come from a family where I lived in a car. I come from a family where we were on the run. Like, I come from a family, we weren't criminals. That sounded really wrong, but like, it was a biological dad thing. Anyway, but I come from a family that is not wealthy, but we were always taken care of. Mm-hmm. Always. And you get out of those slumps by changing your mindset, by changing your thought processes, by not accepting defeat. Yeah, you may be set back. That's okay. There's a million ways to do one thing, a million different ways. That's why I said all modalities are needed. All things are needed in general. It's just whatever's good, better, or best.
Yeah.
And that's really where my thought is on that.
I love it. All right. How do they find you online? How do they buy from you? Mm-hmm. How do they do all the things?
Yeah. Super simple. Just go to www.shoplbn.com and you can see all the products, you can see all the services offered, and you can get a hold of all the mastermind group that I work with as well. So. And
if somebody, give me an idea of what all the products are. What kind of products do you sell?
Literally head to toe, everything. From babies, pregnant moms, men, children. I have it all. I even have a pet section, but it's not technically on the site. But yeah, I make it all. And if you have any questions, just reach out to me. I'm more than willing to work with anybody on what that looks like.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Miss Anna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And team, so if you have not experienced Reiki, if you've not had a lymphatic drainage, whether it's a facial or a session, if you are tired of having putting soaps and other products on your skin that aggravate it, that have all types of chemicals in it, you need to take a look go to www.shoplbn.com and check out what Miss Anna has to offer. If you're scared about, maybe making a decision, you need to walk through that. You need to work through the pros and cons, and just understand that your future self depends on the decisions that you choose to make today. And you not choosing to make a decision is still choosing to make a decision. So again, check out Miss Anna's stuff, shoplbn.com. And thank you so much for tuning in with us. Again, thanks so much to the Hit Lab creative team here in Nashville, Tennessee, Sense Custom Development, and Charge Forward Solutions. Until next time, continue to charge forward.
Hey team, Jim Cripps here with the Charge Forward podcast. I just wanted to tell you thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everyone in my life, even those that I've never met. They're out there listening to this podcast. I've been so fortunate to have amazing people come in here in the studio with me and share their life story. From everybody here at the Charge Forward podcast and Hit Lab Studios, I just want to say thank you.